Welcome back to Blacklit Memory. Tonight, I've got 10 true stories from the backroads. Highways that don't show up right on any map, where folks vanish and engines die without warning. Some say if you ever see a second shadow in your rear view, don't check twice. Before we begin, hit subscribe, leave a like, and tell me where you're listening from, because one of these stories might have passed just a few miles from your door. Thank you for being here. Now then, let's begin. My name's Ward Mullen. I was 44 that winter, and I just started doing long-haul runs across state lines. Before that, I'd driven short routes back in Missouri, mostly around Joplin and Springfield, never more than a few hours out, and always back home by dinner. But home didn't exist the same way anymore. After the divorce, the house felt hollow and small. So I took a new route out of Amarillo, hauling a freezer trailer toward Memphis, hoping the miles might give me space to breathe. That night, I was somewhere along I-40, skimming the southern edge of the Ozark National Forest. It was cold, real cold, and the road felt empty in a way that didn't sit right. Fog was starting to slide down the hills like it had weight. Not a breeze in the air, but it moved as if pulled. My headlights caught pieces of it drifting like smoke, then thickening fast. The dash clock blinked 2:12 a.m. I'd been on the road for hours, just me and the hum of the engine. I kept my CB radio on, like I always did. It was an old analog set, one of those you still had to tune by hand. I rarely talked on it, just listened. There was something about the scratch and static that helped the cab feel less alone. Then the channel shifted on its own. A burst of white noise. Then a low voice cut through, muddy but clear. Steel horse. Anyone, copy. Wrecked westbound. Marker 233. I reached for the mic. Paused. I'd never heard anyone go by Steel Horse before. Definitely not on Channel 17. The voice came again, pushing through like it was caught in wet cloth. Ain't you the one in the blue Kenworth? With the dent on the left mirror. That made me freeze. I glanced out the side mirror. Sure enough, the left side still had that dent. I'd clipped a tree branch outside Tulsa the week before. No one else had seen it. I hadn't mentioned it to dispatch. Hell, I'd forgotten it myself. But that voice knew. If you've ever driven night runs through Arkansas, you'll understand. Some stretches have nothing on them, no lights, no sound, not even roadkill. But they still make your heart seize up like it remembered something you never lived. I keyed the mic. Copy that. Who's calling Steel Horse? No answer. Just static. Then silence. I let go of the mic and turned off the radio. Normally I kept it running for company, but something told me I needed it quiet. The fog was thick now, blinding almost. I could barely see 20 feet ahead. It wasn't drifting like fog should. It felt like it was being pulled out of the forest, dragged toward the road. Then I saw it. Mile marker 233. A crumpled stretch of guardrail, twisted like something had smashed it at speed. No hazard lights, no flares, but the smell was there. Burnt plastic and something sharper, maybe leaking oil. I rolled down the window. The cold hit hard, and so did the smell. My headlights lit up tiny shards scattered across the asphalt. They could have been from reflectors. They could have been taillights. Either way, something had happened here. The CB kicked back on. You didn't stop last time. Steel Horse. Thought maybe you would now. I gripped the wheel tighter. My throat dried out. I didn't remember driving this stretch before. I was sure I hadn't. But there was a twist in my gut. Something familiar that shouldn't have been. Then I looked into the rear view. There was a rig on the shoulder behind me. Same model. Same color. Same dent on the left mirror. The headlights were off, but the cab was softly lit inside. I hadn't seen another truck in an hour. No one passed me. No one came up behind. Then the CB buzzed again. Jackknifed at 233. Can't move. Someone copy. And it was my voice. No mistaking it. I heard the hitch in the breath, the slight rasp at the end of each word. It wasn't a recording. It was me. Only I hadn't said a word. I didn't wait to think. My first instinct was to get out of there. I flipped the turn signal and started easing toward the left lane, planning to put distance between me and whatever that was. But just as I moved to accelerate, the CB flicked back on. The volume surged, like someone was twisting the knob from the inside. I reached over and tried to shut it off, but it wouldn't respond. Even pulling the power cord didn't do a damn thing. The light stayed on, humming louder by the second. I slammed my palm on the dash, cursing. Then something else pushed through the static. My own voice again, weaker this time. Still here, still stuck. Come on, someone copy. That's when I did something I shouldn't have. I pulled over. I know how that sounds. You're probably thinking I was crazy to stop. But there's a moment in the middle of fear where curiosity and dread overlap, and your body moves before your brain votes. I slowed to a crawl and parked on the shoulder, hazard lights clicking. The other truck was maybe 30 yards behind, half swallowed by fog. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped down onto the asphalt, boots hitting cold pavement that felt damp through the soles. I walked slowly, light aimed ahead, my breath fogging in front of me. There was no sound, not even insects, just the buzz of my own engine winding down behind me, and that faint, crackling voice still whispering from the CB. As I got closer, I saw the plate, same state, same number, Missouri tags, same dented side mirror too. The truck wasn't just similar, it was mine. I stood there, maybe 5 feet away, trying to breathe steady. The cab light was still on, pale, flickering a little. I raised the flashlight and tapped the door. No answer. I stepped closer and peered through the glass, and I saw myself sitting in the driver's seat, one hand on the wheel, the other holding the CB mic to my mouth. He wasn't blinking. His lips were moving in sync with the words I'd just heard. The ones asking for help, asking for a copy. I take one step back, just one, and the door swings open from the inside. A hand reaches out and grabs my wrist. It is cold. Not cold like the air, but cold like deep water. Like metal that has not felt sun in years. It yanks hard. I fall forward, chest hitting the step rail, my shoulder wedged against the door frame. My face is inches from his, my own face, but it is pale and blurred, like it has been seen through glass in a rainstorm. Its eyes are wide but not seeing. Its breath fogs up the inside of the windshield. I jerk my arm free with every bit of strength I have and stumble back onto the road. My back hits the asphalt. My head spins. When I look up, the truck is gone. No taillights. No engine hum. No cab light fading out. Just fog. I crawled back into my Kenworth and shut the door so hard it shook the mirror. I turned the key. Engine caught. Headlights cut through the white soup ahead. The CB was dead silent. Light off. Cold to the touch. I drove until dawn. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. I didn't even switch lanes until I hit the Tennessee line. 2 days later, I pulled into a rest stop outside Nashville and ripped the CB unit from the dash. Tossed the whole thing into the side compartment and slammed it shut. Didn't even care if dispatch couldn't reach me. I wasn't listening anymore. But here's the thing. Every time I pass mile marker 233, the digital clock on my dash resets to 2:12 a.m. It doesn't matter what time it really is. The digits flicker, then freeze. 2:12. A month after the run, I took the rig in for routine maintenance. Nothing major. Oil, brakes, light replacements. The technician called me into the bay halfway through and asked, casual as anything, "You just install a new CB mic?" This thing's still warm. I didn't answer. I didn't tell him the unit hadn't been plugged in for weeks, that I hadn't touched it since the night in the fog. But sometimes, even now, if I'm on the road late enough, I'll hear a click from the glove box. And if I lean close, I swear I can hear my own voice calling out. Still caught on channel 17. I never liked driving at night, but my younger brother had just had shoulder surgery, and I was covering his route for the next few weeks. It was a rural detour job, hauling crates from Lubbock to Tulsa through some poorly marked back roads. Paid better than I expected, but came with too much time to think. It started just outside Wichita Falls. Rain was falling in thick sheets, bouncing off the hood like gravel. I saw a kid standing near the ramp with a cardboard sign soaked through, sagging at the edges. It read Tulsa or Bust in black marker. He looked maybe 19, tall, skinny, jeans stuck to his legs, one hand gripping a wet backpack, the other holding a water-damaged book. I don't usually stop for hitchhikers. My wife's always said it plain. You don't know who's getting into your cab these days. But this one looked like my son. Same messy brown hair, same narrow face. Something about the way he stood there, not even trying to wave me down, just shivering in the rain. I slowed without thinking. His name was Alec. Said he had dropped out of college a year back. His mom was sick in Tulsa, and he'd been trying to get there for 3 days. He spoke softly, polite, didn't ask for anything except a ride. We drove for a while in silence. The highway was flooding near the county line, so I took a detour onto an old service road that had been cleared. GPS didn't even register the turn. The arrow floated on a blank grid with no roads marked, just pale yellow and blue on screen. Behind us, the sky kept shifting. Clouds turned almost black, the kind of black that seems to drink in the light. The rain picked up again, this time colder. I had a bad feeling from the minute he got in. But he was soaked, teeth chattering, and I had just yelled at my own boy 2 nights before for missing dinner. Maybe I was trying to make up for that. I don't know. After 20 minutes or so, Alec drifted off. His head leaned against the window, breath fogging the glass in soft bursts. I kept my eyes on the road, but something felt off. The GPS was still spinning. The arrow pointed forward, but there was no road under it. The rain turned into sleet. I saw the little white cracks form across the top corner of the windshield, but I couldn't hear it falling. No pinging sound, just silence. I reached for my phone to check the radar. No bars, not even an X for signal, just empty. Then Alex spoke, without looking at me. His eyes stayed fixed on the dark outside. "Do you hear that?" I paused, tried to listen. There was a soft dragging noise. Not inside. On top of the cab, like something sliding slowly across the roof. Then I saw him, standing in the middle of the road ahead. A man, or something shaped like one. No feet, just trousers cut off clean at the ankle. But he stood still, perfectly balanced, in wind strong enough to rock the trailer. I hit the high beams, and he moves. He does not walk. He glides, right across the center line. No shadow underneath him. No contact with the ground. Just a silent slide from one side of the road to the other. Alec bolts upright in his seat. "Turn around. We can't go that way. Don't go that way." His voice is sharper now, almost panicked. I slam the brake. The trailer fishtails, tires screeching. The whole rig jerks sideways. For a second, I think we are going over. But we stop. The man is gone. There is only one thing left. A scrap of paper stuck to the middle of the windshield. I get out, heart pounding, and peel it off. It reads, Alec M., deceased, 2018. Thanks for watching. My hands were shaking when I turned back toward the cab. The wipers were still scraping across the glass. smearing rain and mud over that empty spot where the paper had been. I climbed in and looked over at the passenger seat. It was empty. Alec was gone. The door was closed. His backpack was still there, damp and dark against the floor mat. But on the seat was a small plastic ID card, half warped from water. It read Alec Monroe. Beneath the name was a grainy photo of the same face that had been sitting beside me 20 minutes ago. The bottom line said, "Deceased, 2018. There is brain dow. I just sat there staring at it. My mind couldn't make sense of what my eyes were reading. The air inside the cab felt heavier, colder, like the temperature had dropped by 10 degrees. I reached for the CB radio, needing to hear another human voice. Static came through first, then a crackle that almost sounded like breathing. I adjusted the dial, but the sound only got clearer. "He took him back. You shouldn't have stopped." I froze. The voice didn't belong to Alec. It didn't sound like anyone I knew. Deep, almost hollow, like it came from far away and close up at the same time. I shut the radio off, but the static kept whispering for a few more seconds before it finally died. I threw the truck into gear and turned around. The road behind me was slick and narrow, winding through open fields that seemed to have no end. I pushed the pedal harder than I should have, the tires throwing water up from the puddles. My only thought was to reach the main road again. After what felt like an hour, the fog began to thin. Then I saw lights up ahead. Street lights, yellow and steady. Civilization. I almost laughed out loud when I spotted the parked patrol car on the shoulder. Its hazard lights were blinking. One door open. I slowed and pulled alongside. Rain was falling softer now, steady and cold. I rolled my window down and called out, "Hey, you all right in there?" No one answered. I stepped out with my flashlight and leaned toward the open driver's side door. The inside smelled of damp paper and old leather. A photo album was sitting on the front seat. It looked ancient, corners frayed and pages warped. I flipped it open. The first picture was of me, younger, maybe 27, kneeling next to a boy about 10 years old, smiling with ice cream dripping down his wrist. Underneath, written in faded ink, were the words, "Last time we saw him." My throat locked up. I dropped the album. The photo fluttered onto the wet pavement. I took a step back. Something moved inside the patrol car. At first, I thought it was the reflection of my own light. Then the figure leaned forward, pale and thin, face drawn and hollow, no feet touching the floor. He slid out from the car in a smooth motion, as if hanging from invisible strings. He's coming toward me now. I run for the truck. The moment I grab the handle, something snatches at my left arm. The grip is like ice water poured under my skin. The door wrenches back, metal groaning, glass splinters across my shoulder. I can feel the chill crawl deep into me, sharp as nails. I hit the gas. The cab jolts forward. The headlights flare white through the rain. And then he is gone. No figure. No patrol car. Just the open road ahead and the rain easing to mist. By the time I reached home, the clock on the wall said 5:03 a.m. I didn't tell my wife what happened. I told her the weather was bad, that I'd been delayed. She nodded and went back to sleep. But ever since that night, something strange happens. Each time I drive through a storm, the GPS arrow shifts by itself. Only once. Always once. It points toward that same blank detour that isn't on any map. I keep the radio on loud enough to drown out everything else. Music, static, traffic updates, anything to fill the silence. Because when it gets too quiet, I can still hear it. That soft gliding sound on the roof above me, like someone waiting for a ride. Before we step into the next story, if you're still here, still listening, with the lights low, maybe drop a comment. Just tell me where you're listening from. It helps more than you know. All right, let's keep going. We were 3 rigs deep that night. A closed convoy hauling C-grade waste up a mountain road in southern Kentucky. Each truck was sealed tight, spaced at exactly 120 meters. No exceptions. No internet. No civilian bands. And no CB chatter beyond our locked short-range channel. I was in the middle rig. Rig led up front. D brought up the rear. We were carrying a mix of biohazard and electronic scrap. Most of it pressurized. Some of it still faintly reactive. That meant rules. No stops. No unlocking the containers. No speed variation. And absolutely no open band comms. The kind of run that paid well because no one wanted it. The road cut along a ridge just past midnight. Forest on both sides. Elevation climbing. I remember the moon was low and red, but barely visible behind the cloud cover. We had another 60 miles to the disposal site. Then I saw it. D's rear lights were blinking. Not steady. Not emergency pattern. They flickered fast. Then long. Then pulsed 3 times. It was supposed to mean minor system failure. Nothing immediate. But something about the rhythm was off. The timing didn't match any signal code I had drilled back at training. I should have told Rig the moment it started. The taillights were wrong. And I knew it. I thought maybe it was a wiring fault. I was wrong. I tapped my headset. D. Confirm signal. You reading us? I am. No answer. Static. Then nothing. Rig came through. A moment later. Calm. Clipped. Maintain speed. No deviation. We reached Station D before any checks. His voice always sounded like a wall. You didn't question it. I kept my foot steady on the pedal, but drifted a few meters closer to Dee's rig. Just enough to get a better look. Her cabin light was on, but the driver's seat looked empty. I squinted. The wheel was turning gently on its own, keeping straight. Maybe automated drive assist. Maybe she leaned it just right. But then I noticed the light flickering like someone was walking back and forth inside the cab. I called again. D. Check in. You okay? And now it's this. Still nothing. The blink pattern on her taillights stayed the same. Still off. Still wrong. I did something I was not supposed to do. I flipped my exterior beam and aimed it into her cabin. And someone turned to look at me. It looks like D. Same uniform. Same hair. Sitting perfectly upright in the driver's seat. But it is not D. Its eyes are hollow. Sunken deep into the face, like pits filled with ash. Its skin looks wet, too smooth, stretched too tight across the skull. And it smiles. It smiles wide and slow, like it knows I am watching. Cut your lights. Do not stop. Rig's voice snaps through my earpiece. I reach to kill the beam, but my hand is slow. Dee's rig jolts forward. She breaks spacing protocol and shoots past me, climbing the grade like nothing happened. Her taillights keep blinking the same broken rhythm. No change. No acknowledgement. I tried to raise rig again. Nothing. The channel hissed with that low electric hum that usually meant a full blackout. My gut told me we were no longer on any monitored line. The silence felt heavy, like the air itself was warning me to stop breathing so loud. Then, far ahead, Rig's truck slowed. The red markers glowed on the curve, hazard lights blinking in a rhythm that didn't belong to any emergency code. I eased back on the throttle, creeping closer until the road bent around the ridge. When I turned the corner, I saw Rig's rig standing still in the middle of the lane. Both doors were open. The hazard lights kept flashing. Perfect timing. But there was no one in the cab. The wheel turned slightly on its own, tapping against the steering column as if someone invisible still held it steady. I called his name twice. No answer. That was when I heard it. A soft thump on the roof of my container. Then another. Then a dragging scrape, like boots sliding across metal. I froze, eyes locked on the windshield, waiting for it to stop. But it didn't stop. The weight shifted above me, moving from front to back. I leaned forward, whispering to myself, "Stay calm, Frankie. Just the wind. Maybe a branch." Then it moved again. Faster. Heavier. Something fell. It hit the windshield with a sound like wet canvas. It was Dee. Her face pressed against the glass upside down, hair plastered to her forehead, eyes open wide. The pupils were dark pits, leaking gray fluid down the sides of her cheeks. Her lips curved upward in a grin that did not move, did not breathe. I screamed and slammed the brakes. The rig skidded sideways, tires screaming. I tried to throw the door open, but it locked halfway. A gust of freezing air burst in through the window, snapping at my neck. Something was pulling from outside, trying to pry the door wider. The smell that came in with it was metallic, sharp, like battery acid. I could hear scraping along the container wall now, a rhythm of nails against steel. It circled from one side to the other, matching the blink of Dee's taillights ahead of me. I grabbed the emergency knife from the console and jammed it into the release pin for the door. The sound outside stopped for half a second. Then the whole cab shook as if something heavy had landed on the roof again. I stomped the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, engine howling, gears grinding against the climb. My headlights split through the fog. I felt the metal claws dragging across the trailer behind me, the screech echoing in my ears until it broke into the wind. Then it was gone. Just the mountain, the curve, and the long dark silence behind me. By dawn, I made it down to the checkpoint near the valley. They pulled me from the cab and checked my vitals twice. I couldn't stop shaking. The convoy manifest said only 2 rigs arrived. Rig reported no incident, no signal interruption, and no record of a driver named Dee on the roster. They suspended me for breaching protocol and logging false emergencies. Said I must have suffered mild carbon exposure, maybe hallucinated from the fumes. The inspection report listed 1 unauthorized stop between ridges 23 and 24. But in the black box data, there was something they couldn't explain. A 4-second clip. A short burst of corrupted video showing the rear of my truck at 2:41 a.m. The taillight blinked in a pattern no one could match to any known signal code. Blink short. Blink long. Pause. Blink 3 times. Exactly the same as before. And every time I close my eyes now, I still see that rhythm. The mountain road, the flashing red glow ahead, and something standing in that light, smiling through the glass. I had not meant to come that way. The route I was running was supposed to keep me south, hugging the state line and bypassing Harlan County altogether. But the night traffic was thin, and something about the silence made me keep driving. I guess part of me wanted to see what had changed. The fog came in around mile marker 203. Not thick at first, just that low white curl near the shoulder, but it built fast. By the time I crested the next hill, I was in it. That was when I saw the sign. Wooden, tilted, covered in moss. It read, "Exit 212, Mountain Hollow." The paint was nearly gone, but the name was still there. Mountain Hollow. My hometown, a place I had not set foot in since I was 18. No GPS marker. The exit was not even on the map anymore. They had closed that ramp more than 20 years ago. After the floods. I knew that. Everyone around here knew that. But there it was, rising out of the fog like it had never gone. I let my foot ease off the gas. In the rearview mirror, something caught my eye. A necklace, swinging gently from the mirror like it had always been there. Silver chain, cheap plastic heart. It was the necklace my daughter lost when she was 6. Have you ever gone back to a place, not to find someone, but just to see if your memories are still there? That was what this felt like. Like I needed to know if something I used to be was still waiting. I took the ramp. The road dipped into the valley, narrow and cracked, lined with brush that had grown wild. There were no reflectors, no lines, just faint traces of what used to be asphalt. The fog thickened. I could barely make out more than 1 or 2 lane marks ahead of me. The CB sputtered. A burst of static. Then something that didn't belong. It was a voice. Soft. Childlike. Daddy. The sixtanthed is right 2000s. I froze. The voice came again. Higher. Clearer. Daddy. Are you listening? The antonized and decreases. I knew that voice. I remembered the way she sounded at 6, just before she lost her front teeth. The lisp was still there. My fingers tightened on the wheel. I looked up. The necklace was gone. I blinked. Looked again. Nothing hanging from the mirror. Just a faint swing, like something had recently moved. The road curved, and through the fog, I saw the old house. It had not stood for decades. Roof fallen in, porch half collapsed, chimney blackened by weather and time. But it was there now, clear as anything. Yellow porch light flickering in the mist. On the porch, a woman stood with her back to me. Still, arms at her sides. She wore a long purple sweater, the same kind my wife used to wear when we lived here, before we moved for good. She passed away last year. Heart failure. I had not been back since the funeral. I stopped the truck in the road, rolled the window down and called out. The woman turned. She had no face. I try to throw the truck in reverse. The gear clicks, but nothing happens. The wheels do not respond. The engine hums, but the truck will not move backward. Only forward. The dash clock blinks once, then freezes. 6:41 a.m. That was the time they said she passed. I was on the road that morning too. Missed the call by 12 minutes. The CB crackles again. Soft. Faint. Ira. Come home now. In ever come, daughter. I twisted the key again and again. The engine made no sound. The pedal felt dead under my foot. The fog pressed against the windows like a living thing, and the glass started to cloud from the inside. My breath came out white even though the heater was on. Then I saw it. A handprint on the windshield. Small and faint, like a child's. The fingers slid slightly downward, leaving a smudge in the condensation. I wiped it away, but the mark came back. Right in the same place. The CB popped once, then went silent. The truck hummed back to life as if nothing had happened. The headlights flared bright through the mist. I gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached and started forward. The fog thinned after a mile, enough for me to see a single gas station sign ahead. Hollow Junction. I pulled in fast. The lights inside flickered. No pumps, just a rusted metal canopy and a small building with cracked glass. The front door was propped open. I stepped out of the cab and walked toward it, half expecting someone to call out from inside. Nobody did. The place was empty. Shelves stripped bare. Dust thick enough to show every footprint I left behind. But there was something on the far wall, a framed photograph still hanging straight. I moved closer and brushed the glass with my sleeve. It was me. 17, maybe 18, standing next to my wife when she was young, her hair tied back with that same purple sweater over her shoulders. Between us was a little girl. She was smiling, holding my arm. But it wasn't my daughter. My wife didn't have her until years later. I turned to look around the room. The air had changed. It felt charged, like before a storm. My skin prickled. That was when I heard the footsteps. Soft, even, moving slowly behind me. I turned, and there she was. The girl from the picture, standing in the doorway, 10 years old at most. Hair damp, eyes wide open, pupils so dark they almost filled the color. She didn't blink. Her voice was calm, too calm. This isn't the first time. Dad, do you remember now? The words hit me like a punch. I stepped back, shaking my head, trying to speak, but my mouth felt full of air. She took another step forward. Glass shattered. The front window exploded inward. Wind howling through the room. Papers flew. Shelves rattled. The sound of the CB crackled from somewhere outside. Faint at first, then louder. Ira, come home now. They should everyone. It was my own voice. I woke up in the truck. The fog was gone. Headlights pointed at a roadblock that read, "Exit closed, Mountain Hollow." I must have been sitting there for hours. My hands were still gripping the wheel. The clock on the dash blinked once, then went dark. No house, no gas station, nothing but the closed exit and the empty ramp. On the passenger seat lay the photograph. Same frame, same dust. The faces looked faded now, like they had been washed through time. My thumb brushed the edge of the glass, and a streak of gray came off onto my skin. The CB was still off, completely dead, but every morning since, exactly at 6:41 a.m., it comes alive for 2 seconds. The light flashes red. The speaker hums once, and my voice plays back, calling from somewhere inside the static. Ira, come home now. As adjusted at BA. The pickup site was behind a shut-down paper mill about 40 miles north of Jasper. No signage, no lights, just a rusted gate already open and a yellow clipboard zip-tied to a fence post. It had my name on it and one line of instruction. Deliver by 3:33 a.m. Do not open. No stops. The container was already hitched to the back of my rig. Frost lined the metal seams. No labels. No company ID. Just a matte gray surface with a long dent running halfway down the side. The dent was punched out, like something inside had hit it from the inside. Buck would not get in the truck. His front paws were planted firm on the gravel, ears low, eyes locked on the rear view like he could see something I could not. I called him twice. He just growled. A low, rolling sound that I had only heard once before. In the night, he kept me from sliding off a frozen bridge in 2022. I had to bribe him up with jerky, speaking soft, like to a kid. He came eventually, but not easy. The second the cab door closed, he sat stiff, staring into the mirrors. The air felt colder than it should have, even with the heat cranked. I had hauled chemical waste, burned barrels, human ash. Nothing ever made Buck act this way. He kept turning his head between me and that mirror like he wanted to speak. Like he was trying to say, "Please do not go." We rolled out at 1:07 a.m. The sky was low and full, but no rain, just haze. The hills were quiet that night, roads winding through industrial patches that felt like they had not seen a soul in days. 20 minutes in, the CB clicked on by itself. No channel lights, no signal, just a breath. Right near the mic. A slow inhale, then nothing. Buck stood up so fast he smacked the dash. His hackles were up, nose pointed straight through the wall behind us. There was no way he could hear anything from the container. It was sealed and insulated. But he growled low and steady, pacing the cab like he was tracking something that had just entered. The fog rolled in without warning. Thick. Too thick for summer. It clung to the windshield like spider silk and turned the high beams into a wall of white. I eased off the throttle, reached for the map just to make sure I was still en route. The second my hand touched the door, Buck howled. Not barked. Not growled. He howled like he was in pain. I looked at him and he scratched at the door with both paws like he was trying to stop me from stepping out. Eyes wide, whining through his teeth. I froze, looked up into the rear view, and there it was, a handprint on the inside of the container. 5 small fingers, pressed against the frosted metal from within, the vapor around it still swirling like fresh breath on glass. I got out. The air cut straight through my jacket. The container was quiet, still, but the temperature coming off it made the hair on my arms stand up. I walked to the back, slow, pressed my hand to the latch. It was freezing. The metal hissed under my fingers like a machine exhaling. Something was alive in there. From the cab, Buck erupted into a snarl. Then he was beside me, leash dragging, teeth bared. He wedged himself between me and the container door. Just as the headlights behind us began to flicker, a voice, high and breathy, slipped through the cold. "Cannot go anymore. Please do not take me." I should have gotten back in the cab and driven until daylight. Instead, I stood there with my hand on that frozen latch, staring at the mist coming off it. Buck was circling behind me, whining, claws scraping the dirt. His breath steamed in the cold. The voice came again, clearer now. "Let me out, please." It was a child's voice, weak and trembling. The sound seeped through the steel like it came from somewhere deep, somewhere the air was too thin to breathe. I leaned close, and a pulse of frost spread across the latch, crackling like ice forming on glass. I opened it, just a few inches. The air that poured out was colder than winter. It hit my face like dry ice, sweet and rotten at the same time, carrying a smell like syrup gone bad. My stomach turned. Inside was a smaller metal box, no larger than a cooler. Its corners were sealed tight with clamps. From inside that little box came a whisper. "Uncle Reuben, you have Buck. You can help me." My name froze me where I stood. I never told anyone what I was hauling, not even dispatch. The sound was faint but unmistakable. A girl's voice. Buck backed away, tail low, ears flat. He let out a sound I had never heard from him before, a low moan that turned into a growl halfway through. His paw scraped the ground, claws clicking against gravel. The smaller box rattled once. Then again. I crouched down, trying to see if maybe it was some kind of air pump or cooling system. But there were no vents, no wires, no light, just that thin seam between the lid and the edge. Then I saw a shadow move behind it. Something shifted inside. The latch snapped open by itself. The lid of the small box tilted, then fell with a heavy clang. A hand slid out, pale and long, too long. The fingers reached toward me, slick and stiff, like wet fabric. The skin was bluish gray, nails faint and cracked. I stumbled back. The hand gripped the cuff of my jeans and held tight. The strength in it was wrong, not human. It pulled until my knees hit the ground. Buck lunged. He bit down hard on the wrist and yanked. The thing shrieked, a sound like air escaping a broken pipe. Both of them rolled across the gravel, the box clattering beside them. I grabbed Buck's collar, pulling him back toward the cab as that thing dragged itself after us. Its hands scraped the road, nails squealing against the asphalt. The fingers were still reaching, still clawing for Buck. I slammed the cab door shut just as the cold hit. The windows fogged from the inside, a ring of frost spreading outward from the glass. Buck was panting, fur soaked, eyes wide and wild. The container outside began to vibrate, metal groaning, hinges screaming. Then it went silent. 3:33 a.m. The clock on the dash blinked and froze. For a moment, the entire world held still. Then the container locked itself. No sound, no breath, no voice. Just the faint smell of that sickly sweetness fading in the air. When I delivered the load, no one came out to meet me. The gate opened by scanner and closed just as fast. I left the paperwork where they told me and drove until sunrise. Buck sat silent the whole way home. Not a sound, not a bark, not even a sigh. That night I found a mark on his back, under the fur. A long, dark scar in the shape of a hand. Small, but not human. That one hit a little different. If these stories mean something to you, leave a like, subscribe, or share this video with someone who'd stay up to hear it too. And if you've got a true horror story of your own, my email's in the description. Now, story 6. We were low on diesel by the time we hit that rest stop outside Elkins, West Virginia. It was one of those places you wouldn't notice unless your tank was near empty. No lights, one flickering vending machine, and a single pump that wheezed louder than it worked. Curtis Ray, my co-driver. I stayed in the cab while I stretched my legs and took in the cold. I had just stepped behind the restroom building to light a smoke when I spotted something near the base of a rusted-out trash can. It was folded in half, tucked between a crushed soda cup and a piece of ripped tarp. I picked it up out of habit. Old habits die hard when you used to clean up your uncle's garage every Sunday just to hear him talk about the road. It was a map, hand-drawn in messy blue ink, creased and smudged, like someone had clutched it in rain. The lines were shaky but intentional. Someone had clearly traced a section of local highway and marked it with notes. One line stood out, written in heavy strokes: "Do not cross overpass 6 after 2:13 a.m. Their ass pays." I brought it back to the truck and handed it to Curtis. He stared at it like someone had slapped him. Then he muttered, "You kids wouldn't remember. They cut that stretch from the official charts years ago because..." His voice trailed off, and he folded the map slowly, without finishing the thought. If you're new to the job, and the guy riding next to you acts strange and keeps quiet about things that matter, how much do you really trust him? I asked myself that more than once that night, just not soon enough. We got back on the road, hauling a half-loaded trailer toward Charleston. It was the kind of run you only take when you're trying to prove yourself. I had been on the job 3 months. Curtis had been on the road since the Reagan era, with a record clean, except for one incident folks whispered about but couldn't verify. That incident was why he only drove nights now. Said he couldn't sleep through the dark anymore. I didn't push. It was enough to know I wasn't alone in the cab, even if the silence between us sometimes felt too thick to breathe through. The route was old, not on most GPS systems anymore, but supposedly faster. Around 2:04 a.m., our Garmin chirped. It wanted us to take a left onto a newer bypass. Curtis shook his head. GPS gets it wrong out here. Trust me. Go the way the map says. I hesitated. The new route looked safer, better lit. But Curtis had a tone that didn't invite arguments. Against my better judgment, I turned the wheel and followed the route from the hand-drawn map. The road narrowed and twisted, the air thick with fog. Our headlights barely cut through it. The trees leaned in from both sides, as if the forest itself wanted to listen. Then the CB crackled to life. It was faint, but unmistakable. A child's lullaby, sung slowly, with a voice that rose and dipped like it didn't care who heard. I reached for the volume, but the knob didn't respond. Curtis leaned forward. His voice was almost soft. We're close now. Keep steady. As we rounded a bend, the bridge came into view. Overpass 6, just like the map said. My stomach dropped. The overpass wasn't finished. The road ended halfway across, crumbling into open air. Curtis didn't flinch. He just said, "Keep your foot on the gas. It shows up when you commit." Thanks to the near. That's when I snapped. "No way," I yelled, slamming the brake. The cab jerks. Tires scream. The trailer jackknifes, skidding sideways across gravel. The whole truck twists hard to the left. We stop inches from the edge. My chest pounds against the seatbelt. Below us, scattered like old bones, are the wrecks of a dozen trucks, their cabins rusted, trailers crushed. Some look recent, others are no more than twisted metal frames. Curtis breathes, slow and calm. Then he laughs under his breath. "This time you saw it, didn't you?" I pulled the wheel back straight, slowly, trying not to let my hands shake too much. Curtis just stared ahead like nothing had happened. The radio was quiet now. No lullaby, no static, just the sound of my own heartbeat punching at my ears. I told him we were turning around, that I wasn't going forward on a ghost bridge that didn't even exist. He didn't say a word. He just sat there, breathing through his nose, like someone waking up from a dream they didn't want to leave. I reached for the CB mic and tried to call for help. That was the second time something broke inside me that night. A voice answered, but it wasn't dispatch. It was my voice, coming back through the speaker, but not what I said. It was me saying, "Don't trust him. Don't trust him. Not this time." Huassi. I dropped the mic like it was hot metal. Curtis didn't flinch. I leaned across and jerked the wheel out of his reach, forcing us off that road and into the brush. The tires bumped over uneven gravel, and the trailer swung, thumping hard into the shoulder. I didn't care. I needed space between us and that bridge. We found a gravel pull-off about a mile out, surrounded by dark trees and a broken fence line. It used to be a rest area. Maybe. One of those spots the state gave up on years ago. But the lights were still on. Barely. A vending machine hummed in the corner, filled with drinks that looked 20 years old. One of the overhead lights flickered. The other glowed soft amber. Curtis walked over and bought a can of soda like he did this every night. I followed, slower, watching him. We sat on the curb in silence. My hands still ached from gripping the wheel so hard. After a long while, I asked him, "Do you even realize we almost died back there?" "You all date." He nodded once, real slow. His voice was quiet. "Every time I get near that spot, I can't remember if I made it out or not. In tracks." I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't want to know. That's when the lights went out. The vending machine went dark with a loud clunk. Then the CB, still crackling faintly from the truck, turned itself back on. A whisper now. My voice. Again. This time, "There's no time left. This is not no paffer." I stood. Curtis was already holding the map again. I hadn't seen him pick it up. His eyes looked blank. The same kind of blank you see in people at funerals who haven't cried yet. He stepped off the curb and started walking toward the tree line. There was a dirt path there, leading uphill. It pointed straight toward the direction we came from. I called his name. No answer. He just walked, slow and steady, holding that damn map like it was a holy book. I ran after him, grabbed his arm. He spun on me fast, eyes wet now, voice breaking. "I'm still down there. I never made it back up." He's not game. He fought me hard, stronger than I expected. He was crying, yelling nonsense about how he had to go back, that the others were still waiting, that he needed to see if this time was different. We struggle. The map tears slightly. I drag him back by the shoulder, our boots sliding in the gravel. A wind kicks up from nowhere, hot and dry. The trees groan. That's when the truck passes. No headlights, no sound, just a massive shape barreling across the road above us, inches from where we stood. Its trailer is rusted, its cabin slumped forward like the front of a broken jaw. Then it's gone. Curtis goes limp. He stares at me like he's waking up from something. He quit the job the next morning. No call, no explanation, just gone. I kept the map. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid to throw it away. But something changed on it. A red marker had been dragged across the drawing, circling overpass 6 like a warning flare. I didn't do it. Every time I try to toss it, the CB kicks on in the cab, even when the engine's dead. And it plays the same line, in Curtis's voice. "This time you saw it, didn't you? If you want a valiant." The rain had started as a light mist around 11, just enough to blur the glass, not enough to slow the run. I kept the wipers on low and leaned into the wheel, scanning each bend of Route 6 like it might change since the last time I drove it. In my lap, the clipboard with my driving log kept shifting as the road curved beneath us. I had made it a habit, ever since the accident. Recording every detail helped keep my hands steady and my mind clear. There was something about seeing it written down that made the guilt quieter, like facts could replace memory. Tonight was the first time in 7 years I had written Route 6 in the log again. I hadn't told the company. Dispatch thought I was taking the lower loop through Harrisburg. Safer, slower, a little longer. But a closure notice forced me back to this route, and I didn't argue. Maybe I wanted to see it. Not for closure. Not really. More like a dare. I couldn't stop myself from answering. The incline came up slow, and I could already feel the slope pulling at the wheels. Fog was starting to build over the ridgeline. I recognized the turns before they appeared. I could almost hear the sound the crash had made before it happened. Sometimes I still dreamed about it. Up ahead, the roadside marker for the grooves came into view. They had installed the rumble strips after a string of accidents. 12 bumps total, spaced exactly the same. I remember counting them over and over on the night it happened. Only this time, the sign was different. Instead of 12 speed control grooves, it now read Groove Bump has shown 3. The number looked newer than the rest of the sign, like it had been added later, or maybe replaced. I used to count them every time, especially that night. I hit the 12th bump, and then I lost control. There was no 13th. If there is one now, it does not belong on that road. The rain picked up as I passed the first few bumps. They thudded beneath the tires like soft warnings. My hands tightened on the wheel. I wasn't afraid. Not exactly. But something had shifted in the air. By the time I rolled over the 11th, I could feel my stomach tense. I braced for the 12th. That was the one. The one right before I lost control all those years ago. And then I saw it. A red cap lying in the center of the lane, right in the dip between the 12th and what was now marked as the 13th groove. It looked soaked but undisturbed. The same kind of cap the man had worn that night. The man who was never found. I swerved slightly to avoid it. Not enough to veer. Just a subtle wheel correction. But the truck shifted harder than expected, like the tires caught something slick. The side mirror started to fog, even though the heater was running. Then the fog didn't just cling to the glass. It pulsed, like breath. The CB crackled softly, just static at first. Then a voice, distant and low, repeating the same phrase again and again. 13th bump, 13th bump, 13th bump. It is like data. I reached for the volume knob, but it wouldn't turn. My fingers slipped off the plastic like it was greased. The next bump came before I could think. The truck jolts. The wheel jerks left. My grip fails for a second. The front end dips. It feels like the tires are skimming oil. Something slides across the windshield. Inside, not outside. A bloody handprint appears. Long fingers drag downward, streaking red against the fogged glass. I try to steer, but the wheel doesn't move. It is locked, like someone else is holding it tight. From behind me, the wheel wouldn't move. I yanked with both hands, muscles tight, but it stayed frozen like welded steel. The sound of rubber screaming on wet pavement filled the cab. My pulse climbed fast enough to drown out the rain. I grabbed the parking brake and pulled hard. Nothing happened. The lever felt loose, like it wasn't connected to anything. The dashboard lights flickered between bright green and dead black. The speedometer needle jumped from 0 to 60, then back again, twitching like a heartbeat. Out of the corner of my eye, something shifted in the fog ahead. A figure, standing dead center in the lane, head tilted slightly upward. Even from a distance, I could see the color of the cap. Red. The same red I had seen tumble into the ditch all those years ago. The radio hissed. My own voice played through the CB, broken and distant, whispering, "Still one more. You never finished." I shouted at it, told it to stop, told whoever was there to leave me alone. But the voice kept going, calm and patient, like it had been waiting for this. I slammed the horn. The sound burst into the night, sharp and desperate. The figure doesn't move. It stands there, still and small against the headlights. The road narrows to a tunnel of rain and white light. I can see the face now, or maybe I imagine it. Eyes pale, skin gray, lips open like they are trying to speak, but the sound never comes. I pound on the window, yelling at him to get off the road. The truck keeps rolling forward. I cannot tell if I am pressing the gas or if something else is. The air in the cab feels heavier, as if someone is leaning close behind me. Impact. A violent crack shakes the cabin. The entire rig lurches backward as if it hit something solid yet invisible. My head snaps forward, and I taste blood. The engine stalls. The only sound is the hiss of cooling metal and the whisper of rain. I look for the figure, but there is nothing on the road. No body. No cap. Just water running down the grooves like thin lines of silver. Then I glance at the right mirror. It is broken, hanging by a wire. But in the reflection, I see myself sitting there. Same clothes. Same tired face. Only in the mirror. I am wearing the red cap. The company said the footage from my dash cam was corrupted. Electrical failure due to water damage. They told me. The truck showed no dents. No cracked glass. Not even a mark on the paint. They let me go home early. Said I looked like I needed rest. But I have not slept through a night since. Every time the clock hits 3:13, the CB turns itself on. A whisper, low and clear. My voice, again. One more bump. You still have one more to go. Is self. Last week, a package came to my porch. No return address. Inside was a red cap, clean and dry, folded flat. I did not open it for long, but I swear I could smell rain on the fabric. And something else too. Asphalt. Burnt and wet. We had been running smooth for most of the afternoon. 3 trucks, full of medical crates and winter kits, rolling through the eastern side of the Appalachians as January turned bitter. Lena kept pace behind me, her rig lighter but older. Dave led the convoy, as usual, never speaking more than he needed to. By dusk, a plow team flagged us off the main pass. Rockfall had blocked the upper turns, and we were sent onto a secondary road the GPS hadn't caught up with. It wasn't on my onboard tablet either, the kind of detour that made even Dave squint at the horizon a little longer than usual. It was right after that turn when my right headlight stopped responding. I twisted the manual switch back and forth, but the beam stayed on full, sharp and white, cutting ahead into the tree line like a searchlight. I figured snow or salt had jammed something. Lena's voice came through the CB, laughing. "At least your light works," she said. "Mine's flickering like a strobe. We have cannot nade, we're pretensing." The CB signal kept dropping in and out. Our 3 units couldn't hold the same channel for longer than 30 seconds. Dave said nothing about it. We just told us to keep radio silence unless we had visual trouble. But I started noticing something that made me lower the heater fan and sit forward. If you think a stuck headlight is just a mechanical glitch, you've never watched one aim exactly where it wants, no matter how many times you turn. When you realize the beam isn't following the road, it's leading you away from it. That's when it gets into your head. That's when you stop driving and start getting pulled. Every time I turned a corner, the beam from the right headlight stayed locked on the same spot, the slope of the mountainside. Even when I pivoted left, it twisted back as if it had a memory. I leaned out the window once, watching the beam skim across bare rock and thin trees. Lena broke in again. "Cal, did you just pass a cabin?" "Thanks for watching." I answered no. Nothing but snow and rock on my end. She went quiet, then said softly, "I saw a house when your beam moved. I swear it was only when your light hit that ridge." In tenere factus, Dave's voice finally came through. "We're circling. Check your compass." Turning back. It is not the matter. I didn't question it. We followed him without debate, and soon enough, the road curved again. That's when we saw it. A steel door built into the rock wall, about the size of a single garage, weathered and striped with frost. It looked like the kind of place they would store avalanche gear or storm supplies. As I rolled closer, my headlight beam pointed straight at it, dead center, The metal shimmered in the glare, and then it opened. No sound, just a smooth slide inward, like something had been waiting behind it. Dave pulled over and stepped out without a word. I watched him walk up to the entrance, pause, then step inside. 10 seconds passed. He didn't come out. Lena whispered over the CB. What did he say before he went dead? In for Yain.com. I couldn't answer right away. My mouth was dry. Nothing. Not a word. Yes. The CB flickered. Then, for the first time in miles, it synced back to all three trucks. Dave's voice came through. We've been here already. Don't let the light hit their faces. Then the signal cut, and the steel door slammed shut. Lena jumped out of her cab and ran up to the door, pounding on the steel with her fist. I stayed behind the wheel, watching the road behind us, half expecting something else to arrive. Nothing did. Only the echo of her hands and the wind that had picked up out of nowhere. We tried the CB again, but it had gone back to static. Even our private line crackled with garbled tones and short bursts of silence. The mountain air was so cold it felt brittle, like you could snap it with your teeth. We finally pulled out the old paper maps from Lena's side box. There was nothing on them about a shelter or tunnel in that spot. The road wasn't even marked past a certain point, just a gray line that faded into the page. We decided to head back. Carefully, we reversed out slowly, scanning for any sign of Dave's voice or silhouette. But that damn headlight kept swinging back to the ridge, always to the same angle, like it wanted to find the door again. Eventually, we found a flat patch near an abandoned gas station. The pumps were long torn out, but a small utility cabin stood nearby. Its windows glowed faint yellow, like the heat was still running. I didn't say it out loud, but I didn't like how warm the light looked. Not out here. Inside the cabin, someone had covered one of the walls with local maps. Most were torn or water damaged, but one stood out, drawn in thick black ink, hand-labeled. It showed our exact road, every curve, every bend, and near the slope where we lost Dave. It read, H13, HOL, do not expose steel to direct beam. They remember light. The self-cruding. Lena backed up so fast she hit the counter with her hip. Her hands shook. She said, Who made this? And why leave it up if they left? In his pata paces and ecclesias. I didn't answer. My stomach had already turned. I pulled her outside and got back in the truck. I tried to turn the wheel around, reverse back to the junction, but as I did, the right headlight flickered. Once, twice, then a third time, and then it went out. For the first time all night, the air shifted. The forest felt quieter. I looked ahead and saw something parked in the brush along the left shoulder. It was Dave's truck. Not buried, not wrecked, just parked, neat and quiet, with the driver door still closed. I climbed out and approached. The snow crunched soft under my boots. When I reached the window, I saw the cabin was empty. Inside the cab, the dashcam light blinked. Still recording. I leaned closer and saw the screen playing back footage. I watched us. The three of us. Our same trucks. Same decals. Same plates. But it was daylight, and the timestamp said it was 3 years ago. I opened the door. On the seat sat a small, black cassette tape with a red label. No markings except one phrase written in block letters. Play only in dark. In Well Pop herself, we never found Dave. Not officially. The state said the route had been closed for years. That the last registered use was a convoy that never left base during a storm 2 winters prior. Same unit numbers. Same names. Lena and I made it back. But the headlight never shut off again. Not even when we pulled the fuse or removed the bulb. And every time night falls, it turns on by itself, always pointing back toward the ridge, like it remembers something I'm trying to forget. I'm really glad you've stayed with me this far. Before we move on to the next story, Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss any of our new videos every single day. Now then, let's continue. June had been quiet for the past hour. That kind of quiet you only get with someone you are still figuring out. Not yet sure if the silence means comfort or boredom. I told her about my dad then, about riding shotgun with him through Tennessee in the summers, and how he always pulled off the road if it started to rain after midnight. Nothing good ever happens on wet pavement past midnight, he used to say, cracking sunflower seeds one by one. June smiled at that, then leaned her seat back. The rain started soft, brushing the windshield like fingertips. We had been running the Kentucky to North Carolina route. Nothing too rough. She spotted a pullout under an overpass and asked if we could stop for a bit. Just a power nap, she said, already curling her legs up. The place looked like a construction lay-by that never got finished. One street lamp, flickering above, and a long slab of concrete slick with mist. I kept the truck in idle, cab heater on low. June drifted off within minutes. I stayed up, sipping coffee from a dented can and listening to the hum of the engine. That was when I heard the other vehicle. It came in slow, almost shy, tires whispering along the wet surface. I checked the side mirror and saw a silver sedan roll in behind us. No headlights, just the soft reflection of the lamp off its roof. I waited for someone to step out. No one did. In the middle of the night, rain makes every sound feel heavier. Footsteps echo longer. Water clings to things it shouldn't. And if you hear movement without seeing a person, your brain starts asking questions your mouth doesn't want to say out loud. The cabin light of the sedan blinked twice. Then it went dark again. I leaned forward, watching closely. Still no door opened. No figure moved. I glanced at the dash clock. 2:22 a.m. Exactly. I whispered to June, gently, just in case. She didn't stir. I didn't want to shake her. Not yet. The unease hadn't settled into full fear. Then I heard the sound. Plastic compressing, like a cup being crushed under a foot, right outside my door. I flipped on the headlights. The concrete was empty. The sedan was still there, silent and closed. The rain had started to pick up. I opened my door and stepped down into the puddles, circling the truck slowly. When I got close to the sedan, I noticed something strange. No license plate. No sticker marks. The surface was clean. Too clean. Like it had been scrubbed recently. I turned back toward the cab. That was when I saw the passenger door was ajar. June was no longer inside. I ran back to the door, calling her name. Nothing. Just the low hiss of rain and the faint ping of cooling metal under the hood. The cabin smelled like damp upholstery and something else. Something faintly chemical, like glue or melted plastic. I circled the truck again, flashlight shaking in my hand. No footsteps on the wet concrete, just my own. The silver car hadn't moved, and I still couldn't see anyone inside. That made it worse. A car running empty in a storm is the kind of thing that turns normal into wrong. I hit the CB switch, hoping Dave's old trick of tapping the channel might reset it. Static crackled, then silence. No voice. No clicks. Then came a breath. Not a word. Just one breath. Right in my ear. I shouted her name again. And then I heard her voice call back. From under the bridge. I turned, my light struggling against the fogging glass. Past the edge of the slab. A slope curved down to the support pillars. Water streamed down the incline. I could see her there, crouched under the overpass, arms wrapped around her knees. She was alone, but her eyes weren't on me. They were on something behind her. I climbed down, boots slipping a little. She didn't move when I reached her, just kept staring. I touched her shoulder, and she flinched hard. "I thought it was you," she said. It sounded like your voice, but it came from the wrong direction. Batted, The session was not ping my place. I helped her up. Her hands were cold. Too cold for the 10 minutes she had been gone. We didn't speak as we climbed back to the truck. Inside, I checked the clock again. 2:22 a.m. Again, the same numbers glowing soft. She looked at me and whispered, "Do you hear that? In Nefford trapped in when they wires, they will doubts." I stopped moving, strained to listen. From above, there came the soft thud of something heavy landing on the roof. Not a branch, not a bird. A step, a single thump, followed by the faint creak of metal under weight. She froze. I think it's still up there. In Axie's naging way, I grabbed the pry bar from behind the seat and opened the back cabin hatch. The cold hit my face like a slap. I climbed onto the step and eased myself up. On the roof, crouched low, was a man in a black raincoat. His back was to me. He didn't flinch, didn't move. Rain ran off the edges of his hood like oil on glass. I stepped closer. He turns, and I see his face. Or what should be a face. No eyes. Just a plastic sheet pulled tight across raw skin, pressed so tight the features barely showed beneath it. I swung the pry bar with everything I had. The hit lands. He tumbles off the roof, hits the concrete hard, then rolls once, twice, then vanishes into the dark like he had never been there at all. We drove until sunrise without another stop. June didn't speak again until the highway widened. Since that night, she has never once tried to sleep in a vehicle again, not even in daylight. I installed a new external camera, high angle, weatherproof. Every night, at exactly 2:22 a.m., the cabin light blinks twice. And last week, I received a printed receipt in the mail. No sender, no logo, just a timestamp and a line at the bottom. "Thank you for stopping on time. Lady." I had been on the road 8 hours by the time the taillights blurred. One straight line from Arkansas heading west. Desert air pressing against the windows like warm hands. My eyes were sharp, but my brakes were getting soft. That light on the dash had flickered 3 times, and that was enough for me to pull off. I saw the truck stop from a quarter-mile away. One red neon sign, faded but lit, buzzing against the black sky. Cabin rentals, showers, hot coffee, the kind of place you forget even before you leave. I turned in without thinking, gravel crunching under the tires. There were no other trucks, no other cars, just a small booth with a flickering bulb and a man behind the counter who looked like he had been there too long. He didn't ask for my license, didn't even ask my name, just slid a brass key across the desk. The tag read 0, not 1, not 2, just 0. I've stayed at 100 empty stops, where the walls feel thin and the workers never look you in the eye. But this place looked straight at me, like it knew who I was before I walked in, like I had come back instead of passing through. The cabin was cleaner than I expected. No dust, no mildew. Everything smelled faintly of pine and soap. A radio played soft jazz in the corner, even though I hadn't turned anything on. The bed looked untouched, made with corners tucked tight. I set my logbook down on the desk and reached for the drawer. Inside was another journal, same type as mine, same cheap blue cover. I flipped through it and stopped. The handwriting matched mine, same slant, same spacing. On the last page, there were only a few words written. Arrived. Correct cabin. On time. My fingers went still on the page. I hadn't written it, but it looked like I had. I sat down without meaning to, suddenly aware of how heavy my body felt. Not tired exactly, just pulled. I didn't remember lying down. I only remembered opening my eyes again. The room was darker now. The radio had gone silent. I sat up slowly. My throat felt dry, and I heard water running. I walked toward the bathroom. The door was open, and the mirror was fogged. The faucet dripped steadily into the sink. There was no one inside. No towels. No steam. Just water pooling on the floor. I stepped forward, and something shifted underfoot. A Polaroid. Face down. Soaked on one edge. I bent down and picked it up. I turned it over. It was me. Asleep on the bed, wearing exactly what I had on now. I dropped the photo and stumbled back until my heel hit the wall. My pulse was slow but heavy, like my body had fallen behind my mind. The mirror cleared just enough for me to see my reflection. My face looked pale, almost colorless, as if I had been outside all night instead of sleeping inside a warm cabin. I ran for the door. The air outside was cold and too quiet. My truck sat where I left it, but the rest of the stop had changed. No lights from the office. No sign at all. Only darkness stretching out beyond the headlights. When I looked back, the cabins were gone, except for one. Number 0 stood alone under a weak strip of moonlight. The paint on the door looked fresh, as if someone had just redone it for me. I climbed into the cab and turned the key. The engine coughed once, then died. The CB crackled. A soft hiss. Then a voice that I almost recognized. Do not be late. Do not forget. No one remembers you if you are late. Verdi everyone. It was my own voice. Slower. Older. Like it had been recorded somewhere else. I felt the kind of chill that starts behind your eyes and crawls down your neck. I slammed the door and stared at the road. But the headlights showed nothing. Only empty dust and the edge of the cabin's shadow. I told myself to leave it, to wait until morning. But something made me turn back. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt. Either way, I went inside again. The room felt different, colder, but cleaner somehow. The air smelled like rain, even though it had not rained for weeks. I tried the radio, but now it was dead. No hum, no static. In the bathroom, the mirror was no longer fogged. Instead, it showed a clear image of me stepping through the doorway. Seconds delayed, like a reflection caught out of rhythm. Behind me in the glass, someone was lying in the bed. I turn around. The bed is full. The shape under the blanket moves slightly, breathing slow. It is me. The same clothes, the same scar on the wrist, the same tired eyes half open. My body goes still. My breath feels heavier than air. The reflection in the mirror keeps moving a second too late, like it knows what I will do before I do it. I step backward. The air behind me turns cold, soaking through my shirt. It feels like the sheets. Like I just climbed out of that bed. They said a truck was found idling near the state line at sunrise. The driver was gone. No record of anyone checking into the rest stop that night. The cabins were empty, their windows nailed shut. Only one door was left unlocked. The number plate had been replaced. It no longer read Cabin 0. On no creast, it read Cabin 1, with the representative. Inside the desk drawer was a logbook, pages still damp from the night air. The last line written in uneven ink said, truck parked correctly. Cabin ready for the next arrival. Bed is empty now. It's not. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. I truly mean that. If you enjoyed these stories, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. That way, you won't miss the next ones. And once again, thank you for walking this dark road with me tonight.